We have two steps, one recording and then broadcasting. Where's this recording now? YouTube. So for some reason it doesn't show me the YouTube. Let's just start without the YouTube. All right, we'll start without. Well, that means we won't be broadcasting live, but we'll post it at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
So the video will be there. Yeah, I use the We lightly.
Mm-hmm. Right, the royal we.
Yes, exactly.
Shauna with me. We do a lot.
We make decisions.
Right.
By the way, you made this decision.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good morning. This is the March meeting of Scarborough Economic Development, and this is the last meeting before the face of our board is going to change quite a bit. So it's nice to see this group that has worked together for the last 6+ years, and I'm excited to bring new faces on. As you'll see, Karen and I have worked on some adjustments to the agenda. It makes sense whenever you have a change of leadership to try to do the schedule in a different way. And I think a lot of what we talked about was getting all of our sort of critical functions done before we move on to the part that we all really enjoy, which is a little bit more open, free-flowing conversation. But we also had some strategizing about what that roundtable discussion will look like too, and we'll talk about that when we get there. Ultimately, it's just kind of a reversal of order, right? It's what do we commit to getting done. You'll notice at the top of the agenda, we've added basically bullet points that are our goals for the day. So we better make sure we accomplish those bullets before we adjourn. We have something we can keep looking back at over the course of the hour and a half to make sure we're staying on schedule. And it will hopefully prevent us from having to add those meetings and push those out to get to the stuff that we had intended. So today we had two goals: agree on the 2 business survey questions. I think that those were forwarded in advance, and we have drafts here today, and then approve the budget. And I'll talk a little bit about my interviews with the prospective oncoming board members. I think we'll have a vote to hopefully accept them, and that'll put us in good shape for next month. So let's start with the survey. Karen, I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. You should have all received a draft survey from our system. I think there was a small snag in that when I got it, you couldn't put the business name in. So we need to go back and fix that. The purpose of putting the business name, I know we talked about maybe not having any identifiers, but the important piece for us is if you put the business name in, then all of their information gets associated with their file in our Blue Dot directory, not for public consumption, but for us, so that we can look back and see, okay, this business was having trouble with these types of things. And so we decided to do that. The other thing it does by having the business name in there and us asking to update their contacts, it does ensure that we get a viable contact, because sometimes we get, people move on or people change roles in the company, and so we just want to make sure that we have at least one good contact from a company. And if they fill out the survey, our system automatically updates the database. So it's not a 2-step process for us. We don't get the survey back and it says, hey, they've changed, managing directors or whatever. The system says, oh, there's a new contact, and it automatically puts it into the system. And just as a reminder, we have the CRM, which does whole lot of different things for us, but it is a specialty made tracking and business tracking system specifically built from the ground up for economic development organizations. So it's not a Salesforce type of CRM geared toward people who are making sales, it's geared toward the types of things that we want to do, which is doing surveys and keeping track of contact with the business and all sorts of things. So it's been a great system, and I think we're just now, really tapping into all of its talents. So on the questions, Marge and I thought a lot about this, and we decided, aiming for the two questions, we decided, hey, why don't we just make the first two questions about, what are the types of things that are affecting their business, both in the past and in the next couple of years. And from there, that will dictate what our next series of questions are. If everybody says, or not everybody, if there's a good percentage of folks who say, hey, I can't find space to grow my business, or I need additional space that I can't find in town, that lets us concentrate the next batch of questions to those things that are most relevant, as opposed to, as we had talked, as we know we didn't want to do, which is ask 50 questions and then we narrow it down. This helps us eliminate a bunch of questions that we're never going to need. So I struggled a little bit because I didn't want to be asking sort of the negative of what's affecting your business. But in fact, when I think about it, that's really what we do. We try to fix things for the most part, as opposed to, doing other things. So I struggled with the fact that it's really asking, in some ways, some negative influences. But I want to know what's the status of the business. So these are the things that we listed, and I think before we send it out, if anybody has got other items or would prefer a different phrasing of something, this is the time we can talk about that. Right now, we've got the survey essentially ready to go, and
It's on our website too.
yeah, it's on the website right now.
Actually, on the website, you can enter a business.
Can you?
Yeah.
Isn't that
I
funny?
know, and in email I can't. I mean,
Okay, because we had promised to have it up on the website for folks, so that's good. And that's going directly into our system. And so I think, I think it speaks for itself. So let's just go through these and see if there's anything that doesn't speak to you or something that we need to add. Kevin, you look like something's on your mind.
No.
Oh, okay. You just,
I did the survey and couldn't send it because of the,
yeah,
but at the same time, I thought that everything that I was being asked in that survey was pertinent. And what I was thinking of is that I've got both my daughters at the house. My daughters are right now, my daughter Hannah, who's a naturopath, and Katie, who's an esthetician. They're dealing very much with lack of business opportunities right now because money is so tight for here. And I just thought going down through here that it was really pretty reflective of what I've been hearing from both of my daughters. And so I thought it was very well done, given especially where we were at in March of 2026.
I just have a question.
yes.
One of the things that popped out at me was you've got however many A through L add up to numbers.
Yep.
Is there any value to saying something like your top three? Or ask them,
Rank them.
rank your top three, or something of that nature?
Mhm.
Would that be of value and help with your analysis when it comes back?
actually, let's see if we can put.
Yeah, I think we can do that. And the only reason I didn't do it is because eventually, I did want to know everything that they're thinking about. What's the whole list? And we're going to ask questions about each one after that.
I get that. But
Yeah.
one thing you don't say anywhere
Yeah.
is, circle one, circle all you want.
Oh, that's true. We don't
There's
say
no
that.
indication of
And I can't remember.
I can tell you, Alan, to your point,
You know, a couple of-
sometimes if I'm doing a survey like this and there's something that's so important, I might not select the other things
Oh,
unless I'm asked to
interesting.
rank them.
Right.
Because I don't want to dilute the importance of that one thing. So I do think there's value in making sure we give them the chance to say, what's the most important?
Yeah,
Tell us everything.
I'm not quite sure if the survey lets us rank. I mean, like, we can pick couple, so it's like, you know, as you can see.
Yeah, we could
ask
do
a
some
second
limiting.
question that's just like, of all of these things, what's number one? And then, what are other issues?
or at least let them know, circle all that
Yeah,
are impacting you or something of that nature so that
Yep.
they realize that they can, they can indicate more than one.
To say with topics.
yes.
Are you allowed to go in and type in stuff?
We were.
Yes, under other, I think you can.
Well, I just was wondering,
Yeah.
like Travis, I mean,
Let's see.
check all that
Yeah,
apply
yeah.
and then,
So-
of the items you checked, is there one that stands out?
Yeah, so I checked now the other, and then we can. Yeah, you can type something, so.
Okay. Okay, that makes,
Even in the other,
yeah,
they might be able to say A, G, E.
Yeah.
I
think there's
I'm not
value
trying
in
to
giving-
complicate
No,
it, but it's just,
because we thought I struggled with that. I struggled with it in the end. I was like, well, okay, we're gonna do another series of whatever pops up, we're gonna do a series of questions about that topic.
yeah, okay.
But I do think it makes sense, particularly if somebody views it like that, like the most important thing is that, and I don't want to
Right, I don't want to
Yeah.
dilute it.
even if other things are affecting me. Okay, I get that. Okay. I think we can address that in one way or another, either by having another another item after other that says most important. And yeah, we'll figure something out.
Yeah, when you click other, I mean, you can actually type what's. Probably the description, what you're talking
Yeah.
about, just
Yeah.
like how to fill it out. I mean, okay.
Yeah, and it does allow us to describe the survey in the beginning, and so we'll do that as well.
We can put like in parentheses
Yeah.
in number 2,
Yep.
and like just, choose.
That's true. We can just say pick your top 3 or
Yeah.
That could be a fill-in answer.
so just out of curiosity, Jim, of course, as he's getting ready to take a bite of food, that's the way it always works, isn't it? Um,
Karen, can I have I have a question?
Question.
Can you hear me?
that's Andrea's voice. Okay.
You, can you give me an example of changing customer base?
If you were geared toward, that's what I was thinking, if you were geared toward senior demographics or something geared toward elementary school children, and that base in Scarborough is really changing, then that could be something that your customer base is moving off of. Or it could be like, I'm trying to think of
Jason might be a really good example, right? Jason opened a store at a time when craft beer was enormously popular and the market has changed on it.
Mhm. That's another, that's
Andrea, can you see the survey?
Yes.
Okay.
good. But yeah, as long as this seemed very straightforward, so if there's anything that we want to add, it's okay. Is there anything we think we don't need? It's also okay. And again, the script in my head says, try to remember, this doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to move us to the next stage.
I think it's also useful to just remind ourselves and maybe remind the people who are taking it, the purpose of this, something Karen and I talked a lot about, which is that our responsibility as the board is to direct staff on where their resources are best used. And we so often will go down these rabbit holes and why don't we throw a parade? Why don't we do all of these things? And sometimes they're great ideas
Yep.
and sometimes they're just things that we toss out there. And so it's hard for us to have follow-up expectations unless we've really done the work to determine from the community what the community needs. So that's why this survey is so important. This is going to help us give staff genuine direction on what we really want to see work output from them. And whether the businesses need to know that or not, it's important for us to remember as we're doing this. How are we giving Karen and Magda the tools to do their best work?
And it takes us to that next step. If we see that that there's a reasonable quantity of people who are interested in more financing programs, that allows us to go to the council and say, listen, we've got 30% of our business base saying they could use some additional financing programs. And let's think about designing a program with the downtown TIF funds that could be available for the entire community. Because we can do that. We can use the downtown TIF funds to create a loan program. And it wouldn't be restricted to the downtown area. So that gives us, but I think we need some way of saying the importance of it,
Yeah.
and this gives us that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So you're saying create a loan program similar to like maybe like GP card or like gap financing for
Yes.
small business?
If it's needed, I don't,
Gorham did one, right? When we were meeting with them.
Yep,
They were
they
telling
have
us
one.
that they did one.
right. And it's,
Sounds
it doesn't,
interesting to me.
yeah, and it doesn't always necessarily mean, like, it doesn't mean we'd have to staff up or anything. We can contract with GP Cog to do the, loan, underwriting. So, again, it's just a matter of what do we want to spend funds on? What do we want to spend funds? What do we want to spend time on?
I'll do
And-
it for free for just bagels and gyms.
There we go. There we go.
And understanding this is sort of the first round, but is it important to ask questions that you can actually solve the problem too?
Right.
Like inflation. SEDCO, this is a little out of SEDCO's
It is, but it also helps us understand that's the number one issue that people are working with. And so, I don't know.
on this list, that would be my
Yeah.
greatest concern, inflation
Yeah. And
and you know,
yeah.
tariff.
Yeah. I can't fix seafood.
No.
Tariff.
The message is that price sensitivity is an
Yeah.
enormous issue.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's not, I would just comment that there's maybe not something we can do directly about inflation, but if we get the information that is what a lot of people are struggling with, and that can make its way back to the council. And you think back to Jason's issue with the fee for the,
Exactly.
if
Good. Excellent.
if they know that people are just getting crushed by inflation, maybe they hold off on
Yeah.
having fee for this year or something like that. So I think it's valuable to know. I know what you're saying about us not being able to lower inflation, but
Yeah.
there's,
Right.
it might be good information for us to
Right.
get.
And I am curious whether it's inflation for your business inputs or inflation because staffing costs are going up. Because that's, notice I don't specifically ask about housing or anything like that because this is the first stage,
Yeah.
We don't want to, I feel like
That's what you get
everything
from
is
the
about
probate,
housing.
right? I mean, if you put that up there, people are just gonna check it automatically. 'Cause they don't
Exactly.
Like the look of it, but the goal is to probe and
Right.
find the real sources.
Right. And like I said, depending on what we get back, we may need to clarify some things. And the other piece that we as staff were wondering about or trying to figure out a way around is not having to ask people a lot of details about their business. But if we're planning on we put it out in chunks. In other words, our first batch, maybe it goes to restaurants. Well, we know that this batch of emails are all from restaurants. So when we get that back, seamlessly to the outside, it looks like it's the same survey, but we're actually doing different surveys for each of the industry. We're putting the same survey out to different industries so that we can compile the info by industry without ever having to ask them. And so that's the flexibility. That's why this system is, particularly good. We can also put out that information with respect to, small businesses versus large businesses. We don't have that information for every business, but we have a good chunk of it. The other thing I would say is if the average number of employees, which we know per business is about 12, we're a small business.
Mhm.
I mean, we can sort out the major employers from it and just assume everybody else is a small business to some extent. That's just how powerful our small business complement is. Okay, so we're gonna address this question of priorities. We'll do that. Is that the only?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did anybody have, just a last minute gut check? Did anybody have trouble understanding or feeling like we adequately phrased the issue on any of these? Because that's really hard, because you don't want to, try to be neutral about it in terms of not leading someone. So I just want to make sure that there was nothing that was misunderstood or we felt like,
Well, I felt I was I was taking into account from a Landry French perspective and from my daughters.
Yeah.
And I felt like all those questions applied to either of those, small business and, construction industry.
okay,
I think,
I-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No,
I think Andrea flagged the one that might be a little confusing, changing customer base, and maybe
Okay.
that should be more just changing.
okay,
I said it earlier. It's more, what are people buying versus who are the people coming in to
Okay.
buy it, or market, changing market.
changing
for-
market,
Changing market for.
maybe that's the better,
Mhm.
changing markets as opposed to changing customer base.
I tell you though, it just amazes me with, I got a Gen Zer, that's in the world now working, and they certainly think differently than us old boomers, and so the changing customer base, do we truly understand what that is? Because to hear Katie talk, she knows where she's going and who she wants to attract to come in and buy her services.
Mhm.
And it's just funny, it's just like, wow,
So,
I'm glad you're thinking of that, because I wasn't.
well, maybe that question is really changing customer needs.
Well, that could be, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're talking to businesses. They're either selling things or they're not, and so that's their concern, right? Is
Yeah.
people don't want what I have anymore, and the root of it, whether it's because they're used to being marketed to on Instagram and TikTok or whatever, that's where you get to after you start with the question of people aren't buying what I'm selling anymore. I really think the focus is, people don't seem to want what I'm offering, or
Right.
what I'm
Yeah.
offering has changed, and maybe customer needs or customer desires or whatever, I
Okay.
think is what we're getting at.
All right.
Like Jason adjusting.
Yeah.
Markets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And-
And then I think the follow-up, the next round may be about marketing. How do you reach your customers, type of thing. Okay, so this is,
Can I have a question?
yeah,
So inflation with respect to inputs to your business, what are those influences?
well, if the cost of goods, like, if,
Oh,
for
okay,
Jim,
got it.
yeah, for Jim, if the seafood prices are skyrocketing, that's an input for him. Okay. I'm
Great.
good.
So what's the plan of attack?
Later this week, we'll put out the first batch.
Okay. Oh, great.
Yeah, we're ready to go. I
Mhm.
mean, we need to figure out the business, what happened with our business, why this works, and if we can't get the other piece fixed, maybe we just send everybody here
I'm trying. I mean, like, it's
Yeah.
just like, it's
Live.
weird that it works differently on the
Yeah.
website and then. but
Yes.
So what's our target for having data to begin aggregating? Are we planning on having a report in April or?
I think so. Well, that would be just a quick question. Can we meet in April to make up our February meeting?
We don't have an April meeting?
We don't normally do an April meeting, but it would be, we could treat it more like a workshop and focus on survey type of things, rather than a standard board meet if you want, but it would be helpful to make up the February meeting, and we'll have a new complement of folks.
Right, and I just believed we had an April meeting, so they're all expecting that
Okay,
anyway.
perfect.
If people are okay with April.
Yeah.
To add a.
That's the school break week, right?
Is it?
I wouldn't be
When-
able to be there.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I'm away. I'm
Unless we
away.
can do the 23rd.
I bet we could. Is there any reason? I mean, there's no reason why we can't, since it's not a standard meeting.
Right.
We can go.
That's the week that I'm gone.
So everybody check their calendars. Would it be the 19th or
I
the?
think the week of the 19th,
The week of the
the
19th.
20th,
That
yes,
is
that's the
school
school
weekend.
vacation.
Yes, and I'm
Just
gone
want to
now.
look at the week.
So we don't wanna look at here, it
How
should,
about the week before?
it needs to be the 16th or
The
the
30th.
30th.
16th or 30th?
Either is, when is our May meeting?
Our May
Yeah,
Third
16th.
Thursday.
is
Third
on
Thursday.
the 21st.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I would lean towards 16th in that
Yes.
case. just so
16th
we're not-
works for me.
Yeah, that's fine for me too.
okay. 16th it is.
So May 6th.
April.
April. I'm John.
Hi, John. Okay, so, yeah, we should be looking at some results at that point, and we can, based on what information we get back from folks, we can course correct if we need to, and that's the beauty of doing the survey in small bites.
Mhm. Excellent.
Oh, great job developing the questions.
Yeah, I think it's a great place to start. The whole
then
idea is to not
the
force
issues.
us to go look up information, right?
Right,
Just what's there.
exactly.
Mhm. Okay, let's move on to budget.
Yes, so I did include in your packet, a sort of a basic summary of our budget. Just let me put the context out there, which is, I think the council is, well, actually, I'll let you, John, what would you like to say from the council's perspective on what your hopes for the budget, the overall budget is for next year?
So we did set a goal. Sorry, I'm hearing an echo of myself. We set a goal for 0%, which again is an aspirational goal, not one that we really think is going to be feasible given some of the changes that we've heard recently. So at the end of the day, I think our goal is to get as close to zero as we can. And the challenge is going to be a lot of things happening on the school side and with health insurance that's going to impact both the town and school. And we made some choices last year about hiring public safety professionals where they were brought on mid-year and we're going to have the full cost of those this year. And so we're just going to have to work to see if that's where we want to get to. And the rationale mostly behind this was next year, we're going to be adding the budget for the school bond, which is going to be a significant increase. So we were just trying to plan ahead and make sure that we keep the budget as low as we can in anticipation of that increase next year.
Okay, thanks, John.
That's a quick question, John. Has the town started to take into account, there was an article about changes to the state school funding program, and I know we don't get much, but it's looking like we might even be getting less. Has that been thought about at all?
So for this year's impact on the budget, there's no impact.
Right.
Unfortunately, because we had our revaluation and the way the funding formula works, this is the first year that our big valuation increase is being considered. And so we're not getting as much from the state as we would typically get in terms of the increase. We're still getting about as much as last year. And so that's unfortunate on the school side still because they were expecting maybe like 200, 300,000 more if you look at past trends than we get. So our revenues on their side aren't as big, but next year it's going to be a really big impact because we're positioned to lose $1 million if it moves as it's currently proposed. So I would highly encourage everybody to reach out to their state legislatures. Kelly Noonan Murphy is the chair of the committee working it, and she lives in Scarborough. So hopefully she can, use her weight on the committee to try and get some changes that are to our benefit. But we really are the only community speaking out against it. And many other communities are benefiting. So it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a tough one. Thanks though, John. I was just curious.
Yeah, I think the numbers are with the new formulation, there are 43 communities that will lose. Everybody else gains, but we're the top loser. And I think, Tom wrote a letter to the legislature saying, this is not a good idea. Number one, this seems a little unfair that you're, zeroing in on really a few coastal communities in terms of losing it. And I think our last ditch effort was, and if you're going to do this, you can't just in 1 year take $1 million away from us. You got to phase that. If you have to do this, or if you're going to do it, you got to phase that in. And there are a couple of other states that have done that, like Connecticut has done that type of phasing in. Matter of fact, Connecticut redid their funding formula, held it, and held the communities that were going to lose harmless for like, I don't know, 5 or 10 years. So they just did the formula and then added additional dollars to cover those who were losing. That would be a good system if we had to do this.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah, I would just add this year's budget, I think will be fine. Next year's budget with the school and this potential impact will not be fine. So if anybody's interested in running for town council and you want to challenge,
Leaving town.
I would encourage you to do it next year.
There you go. There you go.
Kev.
Yeah.
You're in a different position, you're retired, so we have limited income.
I'll run your
Yeah.
campaign.
There you go. There you go.
Just put them on the legislature too.
Right. And so back to the budget. So obviously with a small department, 2 people, we've got, and our 2 things are driving our budget this year, and we are looking at a 7% increase. One of them is staffing, and we don't necessarily control the increases in staffing that's sort of done town-wide. And it's a combination of, they have this step increase that happens to everybody. I think it's 1.5%, sort of a longevity thing. And then there's, cost of living. And so, direct staffing costs, salaries are going up 4%. And that's a primary driver. The other driver, because we're such a small budget, is the change in our audit. Because our audit, we're going to have an extra $10,000 next year, and then from every year going on. I wish there was something else we could do, but that's, we're using the town's auditor, so we're in sync with them. I think Norm, the town's finance director, is very pleased that we're using the town's auditor. I guess the deal is we got a real bargain with our former independent auditor. And I don't know what to do with that. It's really driving about the same costs as the auditor that we used the year before. So it's not like I think if we went out to bid, we would have a significantly different outcome in terms of the costs. So that's the other driver. Our rent is going to go up a little bit. But I took some money out of other sections of the budget to cover that. So we're basically going to be neutral on our rent increase. And what I did is I took that out of, our education and training budget and said, at least for next year, I think we can lose some of that. And then once we've absorbed and got on the regular path with the auditors in terms of their uh, pricing, we can go back to the council in a future year and say, you know what, we haven't done a lot of training, and we need to increase this budget. But for next year, I think that was the right thing to do, to cover that little bit of a increase in the rent.
Karen, could you? It seems an awful lot for that audit expense for what? For this operate, I mean, not to like put it on the town, but if the finance director is that keen on using the same auditor, I mean, if you were to find someone else that was lower, could you make a request that they split that difference with you? I mean, if you found someone that could do it for less, maybe the town, if he wants you to keep using that auditor, could pay anything over what we would have to pay with someone else. I don't know.
Right. Well, it's the irony of this. We've built this into the increase into the budget. Last year, we absorbed the increase from our fund balance, so we didn't have to do an increase from the town's allotment. Next year, we're saying this is what's going to cost, and we need to put that in the budget. So it's going to get paid for. It just, I guess part of what I understand is, I think our previous auditor, part of the reason he was retiring, but part of the other reason is doing the audit for the nonprofits and things like that becomes more and more complicated. And there are some additional types of certifications you're going to need. And that's why he's like, you know what, it's time for me to retire and get out of this. And so yes, I think we can always go out to budget. I would suggest for the next, go out to bid. I would still suggest for the next year, given that I didn't see any difference between the town's auditor and the auditor that we used last year. I don't think we would do much better. Maybe we get 500 or $1,000, but it's not going to be the 2,000 that we've been used to paying. So I think we have to look at it as we got a bargain for like 20 years. And I've talked to Norm about this. I've said, Norm, do we really even need to do a full audit every year, or can you guys take over doing the audit? And he's like, no. We don't want to do that. So I've tried to strategize with Norm, and this is his best recommendation in terms of what we need to do. So yeah, we're showing that's really a big chunk. If you look at the next page, the audit, salaries go up, direct 9,000, health insurance is up 5, and audit and filings are up $9,500. So that makes our little tiny budget go up a lot. And it's pretty straightforward. We've done our best to, I think, manage expenses, and we've taken some funds out of our direct budget to try to cover other things. But those 3 things, salaries, health insurance, and audit, are like 98% of the increase in the costs. And so if you look at the last page, that's what I've submitted as draft to Tom. And just remember, when we do our expenses, or when we do our budget, we do all of the expenses, and then we take out all the money that we plan to raise, either through the sponsorships and a small amount of money we get from the chamber and a couple of other things. We take that directly off the bottom line to the town. And that's why you see our expense total is 365, 367,000, but the cost to the town is 352. That's because we're taking off those the revenues that we're raising. So the town benefits from that. And that's as straightforward as I can do it. You can see the other staffing. We've got staffing, which is direct personnel costs, and then we've got all the other benefits and things like that. Again, those are directly from the town coming up with those. And then you can see below the summary of previous years.
Other questions, Andrea? Anybody? All right, do you need an endorsement today?
I do. I would like one.
You need one to keep operating. Okay, listen, everybody, take a minute, and as soon as someone is ready, then we can entertain a vote, a motion.
Have you, has this been vetted by anyone in the process, the town, Tom? Do you expect?
No, that really
Do you
comes,
expect any?
it's been submitted to Tom so he can pull his budget together because he presents to the council
Yep.
on April 1. But in his original budget, he's not done any of his cuts yet. And I wouldn't expect him to cut anything from us because I think we're pretty lean. And unless he comes up with something else in terms of the audit, then
Jones.
I would,
John.
I would add, Aaron's budget also gets paid out of TIF revenues and not through general taxation that we would do through property taxes. So every year I feel like we just kind of are like, Aaron, what do you need? Keep it lean, and you do it, and it's never a big issue. So I anticipate the same thing this year.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and that's also why I think let's get through this year where we're really hoping for a 0% increase. We've done our best to manage costs. Next year, I think after the survey, I think we can come back to them and say, you know what, here's some economic development programs, whether it be a loan program or a facade improvement program or something like that. I think we're ready to come back where, 6 years, 7 years outside of the pandemic, people have gone back to not their old way of business, but at least their, a new normal for the future. And I think that's where we can come back and say, here's what we really need.
Great.
Make a motion. Sure. I move that we approve the presented draft budget for fiscal year 2027.
Okay.
Well, second.
Second, all those in favor?
I'm
You may vote.
abstaining.
They're abstaining, got it. Okay, any opposed? Seeing none? Unanimous. Okay, thank you. So then we have what would normally be a pretty rapid fire administrative acceptances and approvals, but I know we're going to talk a little bit about the audit and then new members. First though, December meeting summary. Everybody's had a chance to review it. Any adjustments, amendments? And if not, I would look for someone to make a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none.
It
Okay,
really is-
current finance report. I'm
It's
sorry,
really
go
the
ahead.
2026, not 2025. I just noticed that 2025 is in there. This is there are two reports in there. One, the February report, which we sent out last month, and then we've done the March report, which goes through February.
Mhm.
And so I don't think there's anything unusual. It's pretty much straightforward. And Magda, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add to that, since she is our finance guru for this.
No, I don't.
So I think you only have to do look at the last page, which combines the previous page. Oh, no, I did it wrong. It's which one? Yes, we want to look at the back page unless I accidentally said the same one
No,
twice. Back page is through February.
Right, okay.
Karen, just a quick question back to the budget about, sorry, just. This is the audit expense was 14, is budgeted at 14.5 for this year. I thought it was 10.
For next year. 14.5 is what's budgeted, and that's what, it's two things. There's the audit and then there's the filing of the 990, which are
Yep.
our tax return, and that combined is gonna be 14 or 15.
We're required to do the regular 9.9.
We are. That's the tax return. So there's an audit, which is, hey, are we doing things, how are we spending our money? And does it align with what we say our budget is? And then there's the 990 federal form that gets submitted.
So,
oh,
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, the numbers, the number from the audit is probably off because we gotta bill the auditors from last year billed us this year for the 990. So that's why that number from last year looks a little bit low, is because we
And
got the bill this year.
990 is because even though it's from the town, it's considered income, right? Because isn't it like anything under a certain level, you can do.
Yeah, the 990 is a nonprofit.
Right, but if you're
Yeah,
below a certain revenue, you can do, I believe it's called the 990 EZ.
yeah, I don't
But
think we have to do that. I think we do the full 990. Yeah.
You must have to count the town's revenue.
Well, exactly, because they do all of that work for us, but it's still under, under under our federal tax return.
A motion to accept the budget statement? Do we need to do that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll move to accept the budget statement. Okay, second,
Second,
thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none. Okay, audit report draft, take it away.
Okay. So, normally we just, we distribute the audit. We, I don't call too much attention to it other than, hey, we've done the audit and here's the copy of it. I wanted to pull it out this year because there are two things that are a little bit different. The first thing is our current auditors are recommending, are saying that we should change one section of how we file. And that section is that the town is now required to approve our directors. And previous to this, under previous audit structure, we generally went to the town to have it approved, but it wasn't necessarily required. And what they're saying is, hey, when we look at your bylaws and we look at how it was set up, we think this is the correct filing status for you. It doesn't really change anything, has no impact, because that's the thing I asked him. So what does that change anything for us? And he goes, no, but from now on, as is our custom, we send new directors, to our proposed directors to the council, but this just says you have to now. And then the second piece, and the reason I want to have this in front of you, is the auditors have said there are new regulations that say you have to show what would happen if all of your staff left. Like, how much would it cost the corporation, either in terms of, salaries paid out, benefits paid out, whatever. That's never been part of the audit before. In the audit, they've always included like vacation, whatever vacation time is owed to both of us and anything like that that's part of the current year. but this is different. This is saying, again, if Magda and I both quit tomorrow, what would it cost the corporation? And the town. And so they're basically saying, hey, you know what? We do have about a $50,000 fund balance in cash. That's sort of been standard. We dipped into the fund balance a little to pay for the differences in the audits lately. But now if they calculate, if Magda and I both left tomorrow, it would cost the town cost us $75,000. So it doesn't, they don't show that. This is from both Norm and the auditor. They have to show it. And I said, well, does that mean we have to go back to the town and say, hey, we need to have an additional $25,000 in the bank? And they both said, no, you don't have to do that, but they have to show it. So that's as good of an explanation as I can give you on this new requirement that says you just have to know that there's a cost to someone leaving, and this is what it would be. And what I asked Norm is some of this, just by virtue of the way our budget is done through the town, and the town controls some of the personnel, and he goes, and I said, well, are we included in the town's version of this? And he said, not really. And this is where some of the auditing may be above my head at this point. But the important piece is, do we need to go back to the town to ask for additional funds? The answer was no. We don't have to show that we're covering that 75,000 because it's a theoretical number, is basically what they're saying. It makes me a little uncomfortable, but
It wouldn't be a problem
But
to
you,
solve.
yeah,
exactly. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna be here forever. At some point, I'm gonna leave, but down the line. But I think that's um, I need a better understanding of what's included in that number because I'm thinking, well, I'm not walking away with, what is that 75,000 covering? So that's the new requirement. Apparently, it's brand new this year, in terms of having to show that number to the board that says,
And is that determined by the auditor?
yes.
Okay.
And working with Norm and the audit. So I'm assuming that this is somewhere in the town's audit report too, although I don't know that they have to show it like we do. It is a requirement of the nonprofits now.
Gotcha.
So those are the two things that I really wanted to point out, that, we have a solid, fund balance that can cover, although every auditor says you should have more, but I think, I think the 50,000, it varies between 40 and 50, has been, a comfortable place. We can pay our bills, get repaid, and we've got that, should there be an emergency, or should we have something else that's like the auditor? So right now, for the last 2 years, we're taking, which is, I think, reasonable, we're taking those extra expenses out of our fund balance. So we didn't burden the town with those extra dollars. We will next year, but because we can't keep taking $10,000 out of fund balance, because that does leave us vulnerable. And I think what the auditors like is, 3 months of expenses. And right now, I think we would have 3 months of covering salaries, like if type of thing. But again, we're not on the verge of shutting down. At least I don't think so, John. I don't think they're ready to shut SEDCO down. But that's our safety net should something happen. And the vote for the board would be to accept, as I said to the audit, it's not like we're gonna say, change this number.
Yeah.
That's what the auditor is for. So I would ask that you accept the auditor's report as provided. And I did give you, if you wanted it printed out, it is there too. But it was in the email from last month.
Any other questions on the audit before we move to vote? Okay, I'd like to make a motion.
make a motion that we accept the auditor's report as presented.
All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, last item, new board member discussion. So I had the opportunity to interview our three applicants, Chris, Brian, and Joe. I can confirm that none of them are crazy, which I think is the first box we'll check in these reviews.
Was that a criteria? I was.
Oh, we introduced it shortly after.
Yeah.
So I think that all three of these guys will bring something unique and valuable to the board. Chris is filling the John Krasnick shaped hole in our hearts. He's a commercial banker, and he's also very excited to join SEDCO. He has wanted to join SEDCO
That's
for
Chris Perry.
a
Yeah,
few
it is.
years.
Yep.
Has lived in town a long time. His wife is a small business owner in Scarborough. So I think that he's going to bring a lot of value right away. Joe Thomason is a real estate agent. He started his own business. He's lived in town for more than 20 years, two kids in school. And I think that that real estate perspective, residential especially, is something that's going to be really useful to us in a lot of the conversations that we're having about growth and so on. And, you know, indicators, but things are headed. Brian Shumway is just a slam dunk to add to our board. I think most of us know Brian. He comes from affordable housing. He and I were on the downtown committee together. What was great about talking with Brian, he has a perspective that's near and dear to my heart from our time with the downtown committee. Brian and his family live in the Downs, and what's unique to people who live in the Downs is they're within 10 minutes of anywhere in Scarborough. And so for all of us, you know, we live in a neighborhood that's mashed up into the same zip code. People in the Downs live in Scarborough. And it's the thing that I think we've talked about on this board and on downtown and a community at large. It's an opportunity to sort of build a community-wide identity from the inside out, which Brian thinks a lot about. And I think there's a place for SEDCO, maybe in stronger collaboration with community services or whatever, to be involved in programming and to be thoughtful about how we're helping to develop the downtown to build that community-wide identity that Scarborough just doesn't have. And it's something that Brian has thought a lot about in his time living there. So I think he's going to be a great addition too. So,
And those all of them filled out the town application, so they've come through the town system. And with your endorsements, then we can send those on to the council.
so I thought we had done that already.
No, I hadn't done that. I was gonna wait for this meeting. We've alerted them that they're coming.
Mhm. And will the council be able to approve them before?
I'm not sure if they will, but I don't think that should stop us from having them
I was
at
gonna
an
say they
April
could
meeting.
come as-
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just add on, I mean, again, I don't know, I do not know Joe, but I know Chris very well. I've worked with him for a number of years at Atlantic. Again, he's very eager to join. You know, he has the commercial lending kind of development background. Atlantic's in Scarborough now. You know, he's got strong opinions. I think, you know, he'd be good. And Brian is just so smart in a lot of ways. And again, I don't know Joe, but I think personality wise, they're good. I mean, they enjoy conversations and, you know, so I think they're great.
Yeah.
Good.
That's
Yeah,
true.
it's a really strong. Class coming in.
Mhm.
Okay.
Good work.
Any questions for me or that we should try and get answered from these guys before folks are ready to endorse them? Okay, since I did the interviews, I'll make a motion to welcome Joe Thomason, Chris Perry, and Brian Shumway onto the SEDCO board.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna, given our new provision, I'm gonna say, could we make that motion as,
To recommend.
To the
all right,
council.
Let's dial that vote back.
yeah,
I move that we recommend to the council that Chris Perry, Joe Thomason, and Brian Shumway are approved to join the SEDCO board.
And I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
Sorry, I should have.
Unanimous, thank you. So, last but never least, the roundtable. I think, we're happy to whip around and have everybody talk about what's going on in their world, but one of the things Karen and I talked about is how the whole benefit of having a range of perspectives and backgrounds on the board is what it brings to that conversation. And so it might help to have a little bit of focus or maybe a question of the month or something to pose to the board, so we get something out of that round table that again, we're asking you all to give up a chunk of your morning. Jim owns a business. It's incredibly hard to do. We want everything that we do in this meeting to provide value for our staff and the work that they leave with. So Karen and I talked about coming up with some kind of format where the round table is a prompt and people will know the prompt ahead of time, so you'll have a little bit of time to think about it instead of just have us hit you with it. Again, I usually don't have a lot to contribute with what's going on in my world because I'm in a home office all day. But I think, a prompt in advance might give us all a chance to come in with something valuable that could leave Karen and Magda with inspiration for the time between they see us again. So I think that's what I'll sort of open up for a roundtable is how do people feel about that? And do you have thoughts about a great way to execute it and what we might seek to gain? Kevin, I'll kick it your way.
Yeah, when I was chair, that's when we started doing it, and it was really to draw from the experience that everyone around the table offered. So I think number one, I think reshuffling the deck, that's a great move to put it at the end of the meeting, and I think that bringing a focus to what our comments are makes perfect sense to me. And having advance notice of it. So, yeah, I think these are great moves.
Alan, you're still with us.
Yeah, I'm gonna basically say ditto. But if I could go off topic just this once and last.
What are we gonna do? Kick you?
Yeah. I happen to be with a group of neighbors. And I'm not sure exactly how it blends in with this board. I think there is something at least for consideration as things start to move forward. But we got into a very spirited discussion about one of the ongoing topics in town, which is traffic. And anybody who knows me knows I have a passion for density as one of the potential resolutions to that problem. Now, I know that doesn't sound like it works, but my concept there is that if we can get the proper density, then we can invite more public transportation and make it more viable for them if we can get density in the right areas of town to make it viable. So it's kind of like been my platform for a while. And one of the things that came out of that spirited discussion was a potential problem when it comes to public transportation. And that is where along Route 1 would you ever try to put some kind of park and ride or some place for people to actually, drive from their home to try to use public transportation to get to wherever they're trying to head to. And that is something that I personally had never considered and was trying to defend. But it's just a thought. I'm thinking of council at this point, John, as we start to move forward and want to consider how do we improve transportation in town somehow, that we need to incorporate that, I think, in the thinking as we're going along to try to figure it out. Now, it could be shared parking. I don't know. Maybe we could do something with, the Hannafords of the world or the larger parking areas, so that we could help assist in that, or again, when I think in terms of density, I think of people who just can kind of walk from their residence to, you know, a spot along Route 1, or for that matter, you know, I'm literally gonna leave this meeting and drive Route 1 to determine how many current bus stops do we have. You know, just because I gotta go back to these people and try to provide some other kind of rationale for them. But that's my input, and I'll leave that with, you know, people in the town to try to figure out how they can grapple with that.
Remind me, does the transportation committee have the big meeting next week that has the presentation from
I can honestly, Karen, say, I don't know.
That's right, okay.
We do on the 24th,
Thank you.
Maine
24th?
DOT is coming and the bus line is coming.
Where's the meeting, John?
It's gonna be in the town manager's conference room at 6:30.
All right, we'll be watching that because that's a small conference room.
Yeah,
6:30.
And that's 24th of March.
it might be in a bigger room because we have the two guests
Well,
coming, so let me check.
Yeah. Okay, I'll get that information out to everyone because I think if you do want to discuss traffic options, and I think that may make some sense, given that we have, you know, the new service coming in from Metro and, you know, serving all employers, particularly Route 1, makes a big difference. And I have.
And this does sound like a Metro
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
So well, then I think the purpose of this is to figure out, okay, a great subject pops up. How do we go about extracting from the board? Is this the thing we want to get into? Andrea, what do you think?
I support it. Sorry, there's an echo. I do appreciate when one of the members has a concern or an issue through it, and so I know that support the staff, but I also think it's an opportunity for the members to feel supported as well. So, but I like the idea of the topic, but I also want an opportunity for the board to be able to share or something important.
Yeah, and I think the goal is that the topic is a way into sharing what's going on with the board members. I know that it's a favorite part of the meeting for everybody. It's really I think it's a matter of having about is where we piece together what's happening in town, what everybody shares. But if there's an opportunity to say, what do we want to learn at the end of it? I think that there's value in doing that too. Jim, what do you think?
So if I understand correctly, we're gonna pose a topic a day or two before, give people a chance to ruminate on it, and then we share our thoughts in the round table. And and if you wanted to add, you know, something that was important, that you thought was important, that you wanted to.
Yeah, of course, right. And in theory, it might inspire that important thing that maybe you hadn't been thinking about, or it could be, you know, of course, it's also a great chance to just say also great.
I think it's great. I think it gives a little bit of structure to sort of an amorphous part of our meeting, you know.
John.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's really good. I mean, I typically kind of start off and I talk about rates and you know, lending activity and I mean, that's great, although, you know, but for example, I've been to a couple you know, eggs and issues in Marita things lately. One of them was, you know, shockingly about housing.
Everything's bad.
Yeah, believe it or not. And, you know, I found some really interesting, you know, there's really, people are getting into two camps in terms of whether, you know, you can regulate housing and create more, or you just let the market do it. And so it's like, that would be a more kind of specific topic that I can
Mhm.
speak to, so I think, if there's a topic that gets presented, I think if people have thoughts on it, great. If not, and they just want to give a brief little update,
Mhm. Yeah, I think, it could be the topic is something as broad as, how do you feel like summer's looking for the world? that
Well,
you're
yeah,
looking
I mean,
at?
there may
And
be,
then-
there may be a topic that I don't really have a lot to contribute to.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean I don't enjoy listening and learning about it from people that do,
Yeah,
so I may not have a lot to contribute at that specific meeting. I may be
Mhm.
more listening, but then the next week, there might be a topic where I am more knowledgeable.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I think it's gonna take some crafting but I think that the idea of it's a conversation starter, that it could be as simple as, are things looking up or down in your world, or something more specific about Scarborough. But it's a chance for us to all be having the same conversation, even though we're sharing our own pieces of it. We'll talk about a method, maybe Karen and I will just come up with something at the next one, but it could be that the survey starts to feed with the topic, it looks like. I think it's something worth exploring, but in the meantime, let's play with it a little bit and find something that feels right for everybody.
Could I offer that if board members have a topic that maybe send that to you and for consideration?
Yeah, of course.
Great.
And maybe Karen, a good habit for us to get in is when we send the agenda around, we just also say, seeking a topic, and we'll make sure that we share that at least a day in advance.
Okay. Do you want to pick a topic now, or you want to let things ruminate for the month?
So let's sit at that, I think, unless anybody's. Okay.
Okay.
Great. Well, this is, I think, the final meeting where John and Alan are voting members. So thank you guys for the way more than 9 years we know you actually gave us.
I didn't vote today. I thought I was already done.
No.
We're on to get some motions anyway.
Can I make motions or?
Yeah.
But I can't vote.
No, you can vote because you're
We
still.
call-
No,
guys
I meant
voting
going
members.
forward.
Oh, right. Yeah, you can make a motion, get somebody else to say, hey, yeah, that's good. I'll make
So
it.
you're staying in the meetings?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
We never,
No.
unless I want to, we never get rid of all members. We
So
keep
Alan,
things
I'll
to
keep
these.
going, but you're also
Range.
free to-
Nobody
Thank you.
left behind. No, I plan on coming and being as involved as I can,
Excellent.
like you and Andrea did, so.
And John, you had
I
three.
mean, I already lost
3 years
out on eggs and issues in Marita with you, John.
Already had to give up that cat. I don't have no one anything to talk to.
And John, all of our board's appreciation for the 3 years of fantastic leadership that you guided us through, coming out of pandemic, and it's been a very active stretch of time, and
No,
you've had a great even hand, so I appreciate learning. from you.
I really enjoy this group and look forward to staying involved as much as I can. Yeah, but very happy to have you take over this chair.
Right.
Thank you.
Excuse me?
I just had two things,
Yeah, by all
just
means.
from a staff update. I do want to say, you know,
There's a phone, I mean.
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
That's okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
So I just wanted to point out, when we were working with Cafe Luna, one of the things, this week, one of the things we did was we used our Placer AI information, and we were able to look at a daily visitor count for the entire last year to isolate, okay, where are your peak days? And this is where we need to focus on making sure we've got some extra parking or whatever. And it gave us the average stay of the visitor in the shop. And that was just really, really helpful. So I think this is the first time we've been able to really use that specifically for a business to help us over a hurdle. So I did want to point that out. If anybody wants to, see some of the information that we pulled out for Cafe Luna, I've got a copy. Actually, Jen,
I'd like to see it.
yeah, because it's just
Thank you.
it was really helpful to see, which days and how much and the difference between the days in terms of the customer base and that average number of, how much time they're spending in the store or in the cafe. And I think, there were just a couple of things too that, the reason we keep seeing more and more trouble with the crowding, is that their business grew. Obviously, it grew their first year, but last year it increased the visitors by like 40%.
Wow.
So, they're really a successful business. And that really helped us hone in on where the pinch points were. So,
You
I,
do this for any business in
Yep.
town?
yep,
Is there a cost or fee?
No.
No?
no. So that's one of the things we haven't made it widely known just because I wasn't sure how many requests we were going to get. But yeah, particularly if we're having, we're trying to isolate a problem or trying to figure out how to, really address some sticky issues. This is really helpful data.
If you need another beta, Pine Tree Seafood would volunteer.
I have run Pine Tree a couple of times, so I'll do a new one. Remember, this gives us information up to 3 days before the current date.
Wow.
So you have to understand it's not exactly people, it's really cell phones. But still, as long as you take that into consideration, you're looking at increases and how they compare to each other and where the busiest days are. This is really helpful.
John goes into Cafe Luna, he's counted twice.
If he goes in twice.
He's got 2 phones.
Oh,
Not by choice.
I know.
that's a good point. Some people, yeah, that'll right. You'll make up for the kids who don't have cell phones. Although I don't know if there are any kids that don't have cell phones, but
Want my kids to be friends with them.
Yeah.
That's if they're on.
Is this the same technology that you used for Costco
yes,
in the impact of Costco?
yeah,
Okay.
yep. We can look at that. And the other thing I wanted to do is say we've run the shift numbers for this year, meaning the benefit from the value that we shelter in the tax increment financing districts. And it certainly is increasing this year. I don't have a percentage for you yet because we haven't finished the budget, so I can't make that comparison. And I forgot to bring that sheet down. But one of the things I did was look at the comparison of adding $1 million of value to the current school funding formula. And put my glasses on for the very fine print. If you added $1 million in 1 year of value, and remember, take for instance, the credit union, the new credit union, Atlantic Credit Union, that the value of that structure, land and building was about just over $3 million. So if you add $1 million, that changes the amount of money by $1,882. So that $1,882 for every million that you add shifts to the town's responsibility away from the state's responsibility. And that's just the impact this year because it can change because the way they do the funding formula, there are factors that change every year based on educational issues. But that's just giving you a perspective. If you added $1 million in all 3 years that are calculated in the funding formula, you're looking at about $5,000 shift between the local and the town. So I did that mostly just to make sure we had an understanding of what happens when you add value into the current funding formula, that the changes that are being proposed for the school funding formula are not necessarily about value, although I believe that is kept. It's about disadvantaged students. And so when you start calculating that into the funding formula, that's how we lose $1 million. But anyway, I thought it was important to look at that, and I suspect Tom will be as soon as we have a percentage, Tom will be forwarding that information to the finance committee, John, with respect to what the value of the shift is this year, but I believe it went up about $1 million. I can calculate the dollar amount of the shift because remember the funding formulas use old value. So that's why we can calculate the current impact, but I can't calculate the current impact until I know what the budget is in terms of a percent. But it's increasing and will continue to increase.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. John, thanks for joining, buddy. What do you got from council? Anything we haven't caught in conversation yet?
The only thing, I don't know if I missed it at the beginning, is we're working on STRs right now, short-term rentals, which I see that being a big impact to especially the real estate community. We've had a lot of people come yesterday to our registration process review. It was just first reading, so we have public hearing, second reading happening. So this will all kind of come to conclusion end of May. But it's a tough one, to be honest. Like there's residents and business owners and some residents who all have very different perspectives, but I see this as an economic thing for our community, and so even the council's a little split on what we want to do here.
Right. John, can you have the current iteration of this, because this has been in the works for like 2 years?
2.5.
Maybe going on 3? Yeah. You know, the original proposal was more of a licensing type of thing with lots of regulations and inspections and things like that. And we've moved to more of a registration system. So we want to know where you are. And the concern, I think, tell me if I'm characterizing this incorrectly, you know, there's a difference between the beach areas that have, you know, they've had rentals or summer rentals and seasonal rentals for decades. And they're like, listen, we know how to do this. We're not impacting our neighbors, and we're doing all the right things, and we're doing everything correctly. Why do you want to regulate us? And then you've got increasingly neighborhoods like where all of you live that are not necessarily seasonal rental friendly. And so you've got those two sections sort of at loggerheads on occasion. Because I appreciate the fact that if you're brand new to the issue of doing Airbnb and you're in Eastern Village, you know, people I think in Eastern Village aren't expecting to have all the impacts of a seasonal rental. So you've got to balance both of those competing interests. Is that a fair way to describe it, John?
Yeah, I think there's that. And then I think there's also the notion of owner occupied versus non-owner occupied. And the fact that we have LD 1829 that's going to allow for more multi-units on single lots throughout our residential districts. And so that's a little bit of a concern. I think knowing that you could have, you know, investors come in and build 4 units and have them all as STRs in neighborhoods. Again, that's some of the fear that's happening. And so I don't know if that's really going to happen, but again, I think we just have to think about it.
Yeah. It's a surprisingly complicated issue.
Yeah. And I do gotta run. Sorry.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Hi.
31 years ago, I spent the winter at Higgins Beach when I first moved back to Maine.
Yeah.
31 years ago.
Mhm.
It's been around for a while.
I have to
Yeah,
run.
it's-
Sorry.
Thanks, Andrea.
Good to see you.
Sorry.
Andrea.
I think you're done.
We're done.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor?
I'll second it. Be my last time. right?
That's
Yeah.
perfect. All right, well, see you.